So today I want to teach you how to sew a zipper pocket. So what we're going to end up doing is putting a zipper here, and then when you open it, you'll be able to reach inside, and this is actually going to be like a little coin slot in a wallet. And so I have my inside fabric here. The edges are raw here, so when the zipper is done, I don't have to worry about closing it because it's going to be finished. And so my fabric on the inside is folded along the top, and that's how I want to have it. And the important thing with this is that when you put your zipper in, you want to make sure the zipper tape has room to lay flat in here. The other way that you can make your fabric work for you is that if I were going to put a zipper here to open to reach into a pouch, again, this changes where my finished edge is going to be. It would be along the top, or maybe it's just going to be in the middle of a piece of fabric in a bag. But I changed this so that the fold is at the bottom to catch everything. And the thing to remember about this style of pouch is that when you put your zipper in, you want enough fabric on the top that you're going to easily be able to close this off and sew along the top on the back side when you're done. So there's a couple things just to kind of keep in mind. Okay, but I'm going to sew on this other one to show you. So the first thing you want to do, well, the very first thing you want to do is I do stitch across the top of the zipper tape just to hold it shut. It makes it easier. So make sure you do that. You just run it back and forth a couple times. And then your fabric, your lining piece, remember it's going in here like that. I gotta put this out flat. So I want to put the zipper, this is gonna match up. I gotta watch for my creases. Make sure it's straight. And this is where I'm going to draw my line and make my stitches to insert my zipper, and I want to make sure that fold's not going to be in the way either. Okay, so let's figure out where to put our line. So my zipper is a 7-inch zipper, and I'm going to need to leave just a skosh bit of space on either side so that I can pass by it easily with my needle. I want to make sure it's centered on my fabric, and this is a 9-inch cut. Again, make sure that you're not going to mess up this tape line. So I know that just from where I have it sitting on my cutting mat, that I want the center line of this zipper is right here at this line. So that's the line I'm going to use to make my mark. And I just use a ballpoint pen for this because it's not going to show anyway. So I'm going to give a little space. Just like that. And then I just make a mark about that wide. I'll measure it in a second. And I just know that's where I need to be. Looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch on either side of that line. So yeah, just a little bit more than 1/4 inch there off that center line. So that's what you want to do. And then I put a couple pins in to hold where it is, and then I go to my machine. Okay, so this is one of those experience things where you just sort of learn what works for you. I used to draw the lines on either side down the zipper where I was going to sew, but then I learned I could just use the foot as my guide. So I have my needle lined up. I have a red mark on my foot. It's about 1/4 inch, and so I just scoop my needle, change the width of it over to that red mark, and I just know that I need to follow that center line, and that's going to give me the appropriate seam allowance or allowance for my zipper. Okay, so let me slide this over here. And I don't have to lock it, I'll lock it on the way back. And I also like to shorten my stitch length down just a little bit too. I like nice small stitches on this. Okay, and you're sewing to that line you made on the end. Do a nice 90-degree turn. Maybe one more. Beep. Okay, and this one, coming back, it's actually going to be, my foot's hanging over a little bit. That's totally fine. It's going to be, it'll work just fine for my zipper. So I'll just follow that. You just want it wide enough so the zipper pull is not going to get caught in your fabric. Beep. One more. All right. Okay, so that's what I end up with. My line sewn around there. And so now comes the really scary part where you have to cut it and there's no going back. Okay, so until you get some experience, you might want to draw a V like that on either end, just so you leave some space. And then I use my cutter and line it up. And I'm lining it up against the stitch and just using that yellow. So I have 1/8 of an inch wide on that. I'm just gonna come down and cut to the points of my triangle. And then I use these little suckers. And you're gonna wanna snip to that corner, being really careful not to cut your stitches. Whoop. Didn't quite get to the line there, so you can just make a little snip. Just like that. Okay, once we have this, we're gonna pull it through. And this is where it starts to make sense of what you're doing. So we pull that through and then we're gonna have to iron it. And then your zipper is going to sit right in behind that. So let's go to the ironing board and get that thing done. Okay, so I lick my fingers and get them wet, and then I kind of roll the seam back and forth to get it to its maximum state, so it's really nice and even. And then you're just going to press, because this is going to show on the outside, so you need to make sure that it's done really well. I always burn my fingers doing this with the steam, but it's just something I get used to. Lick, lick. And I can put this break back in there, so I'm not real worried about that. So just want to make sure I get my material where it needs to be. Okay, and then I'm feeling for creases in the fabric on the back is what my thumb was doing there. Because that's sometimes you get a crease, and I'll show you that. There's might be one here on the back. Nope. Oh wow, it turned out pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and press the back side of this too. Your sewing is only as good as your pressing. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Try to work some of this out. Ah. All right, so let's get back over and we'll put our zipper in. Okay, and I want my zipper to pull from left to right, so I'm going to slide it up underneath. Make sure this is back. And then I center my zipper in the middle, and you're just going to pin it. I like to put a pin on top. I always like to start sewing over here for some reason. That's just what I do. So I pin that. Right there. I like to have one on this tail on the end. I'm just watching the center of that zipper. I want to make sure that it's between the fabric evenly. Okay, and one more on this corner. Okay, and then I'm going to need to put the zipper foot on my machine before I sew. Okay, so remember that we're sewing a purple zipper, so I put purple string for my bobbin, and then I chose a top thread color for the top. Even though I have a majority of red fabric, I still chose a blue because I don't want the red to actually go beyond what I have in here. So that's just something to think about, is what you want it to stand out for. I have my zipper foot on, and you have to pick what you want your allowance to be along here. So again, I'm just gonna use the edge of my foot to kind of gauge, and then I have my needle set in probably 1/8 of an inch on there. So let's go around and finish this sucker up. And again, I don't need to lock it at first because I'll be coming around. Pull your pins as you go. Straighten out wherever you want your fabric. Okay, if I see my fabric start to bubble, that's why I pulled out extra pins, just to make sure it's gonna do what I want and it's not gonna fold over that fabric on me. Okay, and then I just come right past that where we stopped sewing. Try to get the same seam allowance. Again, we want to line up so we're following the edge of the fabric. Alright. Strings. And that's it. So I'm going to go back and put my crease back in the top here. And then now I have my little pouch. Just like that. And like I said, the edges are going to be sewn in. And that's my finished product. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and if you want more sewing tips and fun, go to madebymamad.com. Thanks.